Mm-hmm. Ah. Yeah. I like Suicide Squad. Hey, what's up guys? It's me, Anthony, here to give you guys another video, and let's talk about the Suicide Squad. Or rather, all the Suicide Squad movies. That's right, there is 3 Suicide Squad films. One's animated and the other 2 are live action, and 2 of them actually have some kind of cohesion. Kind of, but I just didn't want to sit here and talk about the Suicide Squad, even though I really enjoyed that film, but everybody's talking about it, so I wanted to do something unique. I haven't seen anybody do this yet, and I'm just going to rank all the Suicide Squad films that we have right now and just give my thoughts on them, because if you don't know already, I'm a fan of Suicide Squad, so I got some stuff to talk about. So to kick things off, on the number 3 spot, it is Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, the animated Suicide Squad. Now this one's basically about Amanda Waller bringing together the Suicide Squad. We have Deadshot, we have Harley Quinn, and then we have a whole bunch of random other characters. You have Killer Frost, you have Copperhead, and you have some other villain that I've never met before. He's kind of like an anti-hero, and he's called Tiger. He's pretty much the poor man's version of Wolverine. This movie came out after the live action version that we had in 2016, and this is pretty much just to capitalize on the success of the Suicide Squad, the live action one. Now, when I mean success, I don't mean like critically success, because the 2016 version of Suicide Squad has been famously panned by critics as being the worst DC movie ever. Now, I personally don't agree with that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is just to capitalize on the popularity, because Suicide Squad was popular. The soundtrack was played on the billboards for like ever. If you don't remember that one song, like what was it, Purple Lamborghini, and that 21 Pilots song, Heathens, that was overplayed on the radio all the time. But like I said, they want to capitalize on the success of that, and they wanted to show a R-rated version of the Suicide Squad before we got the Suicide Squad in 2021, and this is an okay attempt at that. Now, if you're just looking for, you know, the Suicide Squad to do R-rated things, you get this in this film. But as for the story and like characters that you really care about, this one really lacks that. It just kind of feels out of place out of all the DC animated movies and TV shows. It feels like it should be somewhere in between like the Harley Quinn TV show and like Batman Beyond. But yeah, I was really surprised at how much I really didn't care about any of these characters. Deadshot is one of my favorite comic book characters of all time, and they kind of give him like just a shell, like he's just a shell of himself in this movie. He doesn't really have any personality. He's just a hitman, and that's just personality range that has, like, you know, a daughter, and that's it. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Suicide Squad like I am, then I would say go check it out if you have time. If you have time to kill, an hour and 30 minutes to kill, it's on HBO Max for free, so you can go check it out there. Coming in at our number 2 spot is Suicide Squad 2016. Now, when I initially watched this movie, I didn't think it was that bad. I actually really enjoyed this film because it was doing something different in the DCEU. It wasn't showing Batman, it wasn't showing Superman, it wasn't showing anybody from the Justice League. So to have a DCE movie that has some characters that really not a lot of people know about, I thought was really intriguing, and just showing that DC is willing to take a risk. Now, they weren't willing to take a total risk because this movie is famously known for not allowing its director and writer, David Ayer, to fully fulfill his vision. I mean, he's recently come out and just written a long post on Twitter saying that he wished he was able to express what he wanted to express in that film. You know, the hashtag release the Ayer cut is trending on Twitter for a while. But even with all that, I still think this movie has a lot of good stuff in it. For one thing, it's really stylish, and it's kind of funny that people really praise the Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version, for being stylized and being stylistic, you know, having that very comic book feel. But David Ayer kind of did that first, and there's a lot of similarities between the 2 movies. Another thing that this movie gets a bad rap for is its character development. It doesn't develop its characters enough, and I just have one response to that is, did you watch the same movie that I did? I mean, the opening scenes when they are showing these characters, they pretty much give you a backstory of them and like a brief summary, and you could say that's not really developing the character, that's just giving you a synopsis. But I would say that the scene when they go into the bar and they have like a pretty much heart-to-heart and everybody spills their heart start out, that's a lot of character development for all the characters. And I mean, come on, this is the introduction that we get of Margot Robbie's portrayal of Harley Quinn, the quintessential Harley Quinn in my opinion. Though if you do watch this movie back, it's kind of cringe watching her because some of the scenes and shot that they do with her really over-sexualizes her. And you know, I'm not here to get into the whole debate of Harley Quinn and should you be like championing her. You know, I personally think that she's just a fictional character. And if you know anything about Harley Quinn, or even just a Harley Quinn version on the movies, she has evolved a lot more than she did when you first saw her. Yeah, the editing in this movie is really all over the place, and the whole Joker stuff kind of doesn't fit into this movie. Just like Ayer said, he didn't really want it to go that way. It was a lot of pressure from WB and DC for him to just add a whole bunch of things so they can just jam it into the audience. But all in all, I think that you should give Suicide Squad another chance. Again, this is another free movie on HBO Max. I mean, all these movies I'm talking about are free on HBO Max. So if you have the subscription, if you like Suicide Squad, definitely give this movie a chance if you haven't seen it already. And if you have seen it, give it another chance, because I think it's actually pretty good. And at the #1 spot, we have The Suicide Squad. You know, totally different from The Suicide Squad. And this movie is just 100 times better than the first Suicide Squad. And again, this is coming from a person that likes the first Suicide Squad. But I will say that there's a lot of similarities from this Suicide Squad and the 2016 version. I talked about this a little bit when I was talking about the 2016 version. The style is very similar, though it does have that James Gunn kind of feel to it. And also just the story beats in general are very similar to the first Suicide Squad. We have basically a carbon copy of Deadshot in Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, who basically has the same problems as Deadshot. He has a daughter who's following in his footsteps kind of, and he just wants to be a better father. You also have Harley Quinn, who's back. She doesn't have a lot to do in the movie, but the little instances that she does have in there are gold because it's Margot Robbie. I mean, she's done this character about like 3 or 4 times by now. If you haven't seen her Birds of Prey film, I think that's like top tier Harley Quinn right there. But this one is more so just Harley Quinn, a little bit more evolution of her character as she's separated from the Joker and realizes that she is her own person. She's not just an object. And of course, with all the Suicide Squad films, you introduce some characters that we might not know about, like Polka Dot Man, King Shark, and Ratcatcher #2, which is my personal favorite. But I think what this movie does better than the first one is it just hones on these characters a little bit more. We spend a lot more time with these characters and put more character development into them that a lot of people didn't think that they saw in the 2016 version. But I agree with everyone that this is probably the best DCEU film to date. You know, I'm not really a big fan of the DCEU. I don't watch really a lot of them. I've seen Wonder Woman because I like Gal Gadot. I mean, who doesn't like her? And I like Suicide Squad because, I mean, you saw all my Suicide Squad comics. And I watch Birds of Prey because, you know, Harley Quinn, I like Margot Robbie, and then it felt like a Suicide Squad kind of movie because of the ensemble cast of different DC characters that are not really well known. So for me, yeah, this is the best DCEU film that I've ever seen. What is your favorite Suicide Squad film? I'm assuming it's probably going to be the most recent one, but hey, if it's not that, let me know in the comments down below. Also guys, don't forget to check out my Twitter so you can stay up to date with my channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and remember guys, keep watching movies.